filming this at the end, so ignore the discrepancy with the fire. But we've got these Rockwell designs, which is my brand, SMG rigs for sale right now on my website, rockwell-designs.com. Link is in the description. It's a 6-cell carrier and it can fit just about any kind of pistol caliber carbine or SMG style rig. We've got a couple left in woodland elastic, and then we've got several left in the Ranger green color. So these are neat because you can run them. There's Velcro on the back, so you can run them as a placard on your chest carrier or your plate carrier, or standalone. You can also run like the dangler style pouches off the back. So if you've got like a KP9 AKV, you know, these will run SIG MPX mags, they'll run MP5 mags, they'll run Glock mags. The only thing that they won't fit SMG wise is H&K MP7 mags. I had a dude ask me about that, and unfortunately these will not fit MP7 mags, but go check them out if you've got, you know, a pistol caliber carbine or SMG that you want kind of a low profile, easy way to carry 6 magazines. Thanks for checking them out. You know, go give that link a click, and we'll get right into this video. All right, Rangers lead the way, gentlemen. We're here tonight. We got a little fire going. I'm going to try and keep this brief. So the winning topic from the poll is deployment lifestyle. So this is it varies depending on where you're at. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. So I'm going to give kind of a brief overview of each of those places. So Afghanistan, the biggest, or the main places that I ever went to were Bagram Airfield and Camp Dwyer, with a little trip down to Camp Scorpion and then up to Marizi Sharif. So Bagram, the 2 times that I've been to Bagram, one of them was I was a JOC NCO, so I was helping the dudes in the JOC manage drones and computer feeds and stuff like that. Kind of boring job, but it was really enlightening to see like behind the scenes of the strike force and work that. So when I was doing that, I had my own room with the day JOC NCO, and pretty private. We had like a key code and whatnot. My first trip to Afghanistan, I was a private, and we were like pulled over like mid-rotation for a potential mission that was going to happen. Ended up not happening, but we were over there for about 6 weeks, and we stayed in bays on Bagram, just big squad bays almost. There was about 2 squads to a base, so about 20 dudes to a room, and these weren't partitioned, so everyone was just kind of out living on these bunks, which wasn't bad. I was a private at the time, like I said, and I had a bunkmate, but if you had a tab or above, you had your own bed. When we were in Camp Scorpion, all the privates shared a tent together. All the tabs and team leaders had a tent with partitions, and then squad leader and team, I think it was, yeah, just squad leader above had their own plywood rooms. My trip to Syria, we were living in what are called CHUs, contained housing units, and they're like these prefabricated, almost shipping style container looking buildings. I don't know the dimensions off the top of my head. I would say probably 10 by 30 with 2 AC units and a locking door. And usually, yeah, like there's 2 guys to one of those. If you were a private, you might have been squeezed into 3 or 4 per room, per CHU. And those are just arrayed usually in like in a line or a couple lines. They have what are called wet CHUs, where they're set up for your showers, your bathrooms, and your laundry. One of the times I was in Iraq, we were staying in tents that were kind of like same living scenario as my first time in Bagram, with just kind of open bay, and we were living on bunk bed cots, which were just really wild and uncomfortable. I was a team leader for that one, and so I had my own, so I didn't have someone's butt right in my face. They were like really narrow too, like there wasn't a whole lot of space in between the top and bottom bunk, so I was grateful that I didn't have a top bunkmate. And then when I was in Dwyer in Afghanistan, we had like these little team or like platoon sized, squad sized houses, if you will, and there was about 2 to a room, 2 or 3 to a room for that, and it was like just this narrow hallway, and then you had rooms off to the sides, pretty thin walls, so you could hear, what your homie was watching on his laptop through the wall a lot of the times, but wasn't too bad. That was honestly one of the more cush living situations, except for my second trip to Iraq, where we had the same kind of setup, big long house. It was called the Ranger Inn at this particular place. Like real Rangers, like the ones that know will know. It's also the thumbnail of this video. And Ranger Inn, we had, we had our own rooms. So I had my own room for the first time, lockable. I had a wall locker, a desk, bed, and I built like a little gear stand, and I had a mini fridge too for waters and wild tigers. Um, that was probably the most cush living scenario that I had. We also had like the main room of the house. There was like a living room area where we had couches and a big old flat screen TV that we would watch movies on together. So usually you're on a reverse schedule when you're overseas. So it means you're waking up as the sun is going down and you're going to bed as the sun is coming up. Um, it was about 50-50 for me half the time. Half my deployments were reverse schedule, and the other half were kind of like a hybrid where you'd like wake up around noon, you do your work, and then once your work was complete, if there wasn't a mission to be done that night, or if you weren't planning for a mission, then you were like basically free time. So working out obviously is huge. So dudes will get gigantic overseas because it's like a vacation for us. I don't think that most people realize, like, when we're home, like, we're training basically nonstop. If you watch my previous video about average day in the life, it's a very, I wouldn't say vicious cycle, but it is a very repetitive and very busy lifestyle and schedule when you're back in the States. When you're overseas, if you're not planning missions, you're doing a little bit of training, and then you have free time. So dudes will really start and focus on working out, even though obviously you work out when you're home, but you can really dial in on a specific program or specific fitness goal while you're overseas. Like, dudes like to get huge overseas. So that's usually everyone's goal, is just to get big, because you can eat 4 or 5 meals a day. There's chow halls set up to where you can eat as much as you really want. And like, a lot of dudes just really like to focus on the gym. They'll hit 2 a days. When you're not in the gym, obviously you can't work out the whole day. So there's, movies. Movies are a big one. And, a lot of dudes will do college. So there's time to do like your online courses while you're deployed, which is really awesome for the dudes that were, working away on a degree. Like, they actually had time to do it overseas compared to being home in the States. Usually Wi-Fi is pretty good for Ranger. On Bagram, it was paid Wi-Fi, and it was kind of slow. You kind of had tiers of service. Same thing with Dwyer. It was paid Wi-Fi as well. If you didn't want to pay for the Wi-Fi, you could go to the MWR where it was free, but it was like you got to be around other people, and if you want to use use the Wi-Fi to talk to your significant other and video chat them, it was going to be difficult to do in a public setting. So in Iraq and Syria, we had free Wi-Fi, and it was hooked up by the homies we were working with. Another cool thing about Iraq and Syria is we had what's called the Plex. I think that's the service it's called. It's basically just a shared drive on a network that hosts videos. So we had a bunch of movies, a bunch of TV shows, and we'd sometimes get together and have movie nights. Especially in my last trip to Iraq, like, we had at the Ranger Inn, like I mentioned, we had that big old living room, so we'd have movie night just about every single night. Someone was asking about the other duties we'd have to do on deployment, and Rangers got exempt from just about any kind of silly stuff. So we never had to do tower guard, we never had to do gate guard. The places that did have that kind of stuff was manned by the regular infantry or airborne units that were stationed, like in Bagram. Like, there was just huge units that rotate in and out, and their sole job was security. In the smaller camps, like in Iraq and Syria, we had primarily local security, but it was layered. So we were like with a base within a base within a larger base, and we were, pretty secure. There were some larger bases in Iraq have, more American Force Pro, but some of the more wild cowboy places we were at, it was like local security, like vetted local security or local government forces that were the outside security. And of course we'd have what's called an Alamo plan. So like, if stuff actually like went down, like the local guard force was overrun, we would have positions around camp that everyone knew that they had to get to in case we had to prevent us from being overrun. So some of the fun things you get to do on deployment, there are some mountains, some nearby, some of the bases we went to, so we'd go and we'd climb those during the day, just for, a challenge. There was one deployment where we brought a lot of dudes will bring like projectors and stuff, and so if there was always TVs around, so we'd hook up a projector, and there was one deployment, I think it was a Dwyer deployment, where we would just play Super Smash Bros. Like for an entire day. If we weren't working, like after we'd finish our workouts and our training, we'd be like, all right, we're hopping on the sticks and we're playing some Smash Bros. But yeah, so basically deployment, big vacation for Rangers. Um, if you're going out and actually, if you're on a deployment that's hitting missions, like it's gonna look a little different. Like your day is gonna be more of wake up, get the stand-up brief, get the plan, prep your gear, and then basically step out or hop on a bird and go conduct that mission. Once the mission's over, you get back, you do your AARs and your debriefs, and then by that time it's around morning, so you'll grab your chow, maybe get a workout in, and then you're racking out, and then it just happens again. I never got to experience that high kind of op tempo myself, but I've got several other buddies who were around for more the kinetic deployments, and that's kind of the summary of what that looks like if you're actually banging out targets. A lot of people think that Rangers were getting after it all the time, but it kind of ebbed and flowed depending on who was in office, the current season. Like the summer is big for fighting, like, so if you're there in the winter, like you could expect a little bit less kinetic activity and a little less missions. And then depending on like the political climate, like during 2020 and COVID, like no one was going out in Afghanistan, and it was also during the Taliban brokered peace, so we were super loath to go out because there was all this COVID procedures that we had in place, and then we were trying to do this, like I said, this peace talks with the Taliban, so we didn't want to do kind of ruin that for anyone. Hopefully this video was enlightening to y'all. I kind of I don't really have a formal set of doing this. I'm just going to talk at the camera. So I apologize if it's a little bit rambly. That's just how I'm going to do things right now. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, everyone, today. Thanks, everyone, for subscribing. We are about 2,200 subscribers, which is crazy that we've blown up as quickly as we did. Really appreciate it all, and I'm going to have to evaluate how we're going to do the YouTube moving forward, because I definitely like making videos and making content for y'all. Production quality is going to only increase from here. This September challenge is like kind of like just get things out kind of thing, and then figure out as you go, and then kind of figure out what the market and what the audience likes to see. So really appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram at Zach Allred Official and Rockwell Designs Actual. Links are in the bio, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a great week. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.